Today we're going to figure out what is the best lens or lenses for the Sony APS-C cameras like my Sony A6600. Currently, and all the other videos I've been shooting with this camera and Sony's 16-55mm zoom lens that has an aperture of 2.8. So I'm shooting right now at 16mm all the way opened up, but you can see I can easily zoom into 56mm just like that, and then back out again. So the zoom for this lens is really convenient, and the 2.8 aperture is pretty solid for a zoom lens where you can still get a blurry background or foreground. Still really good in night photography or low light videos. What we're gonna compare it to though is this Sigma lens. So this is the Sigma 16mm 1.4. So there's three versions of this: 16mm, 30mm, and 56mm. So it essentially covers the same zoom range as my zoom lens from Sony. The zoom lens cost around $1,400. You can get all three of these for a little over $1,000. This one cost about $400. Sometimes you can find a deal on Amazon, Adorama, or B&H Photo. But so what we're gonna do is compare this and figure out, do you notice a difference in the sharpness of this image? Can you get more background blur? Does it work better in low light situations? So why don't we open this up and swap out the lens? Let's see what we got in here. I'm not someone who's like really keen on unboxing videos, but let's get this open and see what we're working with. The lens hood. And so you can see for a fixed focal length lens, it's pretty sizable. So let's see how this compares. So you can see here's the 16mm from Sigma. Let's get this on. Okay, so here we are with the Sigma lens right now at 16mm, like I was just shooting a second ago with the Sony lens. How does this look? So I was able to open the aperture all the way to 1.4. So I think you're gonna notice a bit more blur. For example, if my hand's out or in front of me, you're not gonna be able to see a ton, obviously, with just a flat wall and not a lot of anything fun to look at that's behind me. So we're gonna take this outside and see what we actually think of this lens. Here we are with the Sigma lens. The aperture is all the way open to 1.4. I am a little further away than arm's length right now. This sign behind me is maybe 15 feet back, say 5 meters. How blurry is that? And then if you look down that way, can you see the bridge or the trail as it goes back that way? So what do you think of the Sigma lens at 2.8? So basically I closed down the aperture from 1.4 to 2.8, which is the same aperture that the Sony lens has. So how does this look now compared to at 1.4? How blurry is the sign behind me? What about back further? Now let's check out what the Sony lens looks like. Okay, so here we are with the Sony lens right now. It's zoomed all the way out to 16mm. The aperture is set to 2.8. I'm a little further away than arm's length away from the camera right now. This sign behind me is maybe 15 feet behind me. How blurry is the sign right now? And then if you look further down the trail, down that way, how blurry does it get? Here is one thing you can do though. So I am now about 6 feet away from my camera. The sign is maybe 20 or 30 feet behind me. But now that I zoomed in and I'm further away from the sign, how does the sign look right now? Is it blurrier than it was just a second ago? This is one thing you can do to quickly change up the shot if you're using a zoom lens like this compared to the prime lens that is the Sigma. Okay, so what did you think of the test outside? Did you notice a big difference in the background blur of the Sigma lens at 1.4 versus the Sony lens at 2.8? So what I want to do now is show you the difference in how much more light the Sigma lens will let in if it's at 1.4 versus this at 2.8. So this is all the way open at 1.4 right now, and the normal settings I have when I record here, so the ISO is at 800. But what I had to do is turn this light way down to properly expose this video. So this is at 16% when it's normally at 38%. So I want to show you how dark the image gets if I just put this lens on right now. So let's check it out. Okay, so here's the image now with all the same settings that I was using for the Sigma lens, but the Sony lens is now with the aperture at 2.8, and you can tell this is really dark. So let's make some adjustments to see what we need to do to bump up the ISO to have this image looking good. So let's see, we're at ISO of 800, and so let's go to, say, 3200. Okay, so here is ISO of 3200. I think it looks pretty good. I can't tell if it's very grainy or the image quality at this point. But to just show you another jump right now, what if I put this lens back on and then basically see how much lower I can put the lighting and still have this actually look pretty good. So let's put this one on. Okay, so here's the Sigma lens back on, and you can tell that I'm a bit overexposed right now. So these was the settings that were properly exposing this lens. So let's see how far we can turn this light down now and expose this correctly. So remember, this was at 16% just a second ago, and then something like that I think is about right. Where are we at now? Let's see. Yeah, so that's at 3% right now. So actually this light that's bouncing off the sound blanket is brighter than the light over here right now. That's how dark the room is at the moment. So I think this probably looks okay right now. Now let's see what happens if we put the Sony lens back on. Let's give it a try. Okay, so here we are with the Sony lens again. What do you think? As you can see, at 2.8, much darker than recording with the Sigma lens with the same settings. So again, let's bump the ISO and expose this better. Maybe there. So what do you think? How does this image look compared to what we just saw a second ago with the same lighting with the Sigma lens? So I think you're gonna notice that in low light situations, this is just going to really outperform. But anyways, let's go back to my normal recording setup. All right, back to normal. So what do you think? What do you think of the two lenses? Honestly, this is the first time I've shot with a lens with an aperture so low. So the sharpness of the image, the blurry background, the low light capabilities, I think is phenomenal. So I'm gonna be using this quite a bit more for my videos. The one thing I just love with the Sony lens is just the zoom and still having a fairly low aperture. So to go from 16 to 55 and back to get whatever shot you're looking for in the moment is just super helpful if you're in a more uncertain atmosphere. I'm just sitting at my desk and being able to set up the shot how I want it. This will do a pretty good job. But what do you think? Which is your favorite lens? Let me know down below in the comment section. If you want more information on either of these lenses or any of the other gear that I use, I'll put links down below in the description. One quick thing I almost forgot about. Today is day 30 of 30 days of recording video. So the last thing I'm gonna do today is this. Thank you, Austin Cleon, for this idea of practice and sucking less. Day 30 is done.